was also gonna add, that we can also do weather signs because I don't think we got to those, 2 or 3 weeks ago. Because I was looking at the list and I was like, "Oh, wait, that's right." Because I was trying to think if there's anything else, and so I was gonna say, let's add our weather signs to this list as
Well,
well.
while you are getting started, I'll go back through and look at our last couple of lessons
Mhm.
and make some notes.
Perfect. Alrighty. Okay, so welcome back, everybody. I am gonna jump real quick. Instead of starting with the bank signs, I'm gonna start with the miscellaneous signs, and then we'll go to the banking ones. The reason for that is I think the miscellaneous signs are ones that you are way like much more likely to be using, and then banking signs we can add on later. So, the first sign we have is the sign for hearing. Well, hearing, hard of hearing, and deaf. So we're going to start with the sign for hearing. So the sign for hearing, let me pin myself. I just realized I have a different background. So it's like always throws me off, and I have to kind of go through my routine all over again because of it. Do, 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 and then pull up the perfect. Okay. So the first sign we're going to do is the sign for hearing. And the sign for hearing is going to be a pointer finger, and you're going to do like circular motions in front of your mouth. Hearing, hearing, hearing. And this is also fun fact, this is also like the sign for public, like public school. So when you're talking about a public school, you do hearing school. That has caught me more than once when I will straight up say in like English, hearing school. I'll say, "Oh yeah, I went to hearing school." And then I go, "No, public school. Sorry about that." So, but yeah, I always think that's like interesting that they use hearing for public. I mean, it makes sense, but it's always like I think of those as two different words. So, all right. Our next one is going to be hard of hearing. So hard of hearing is going to be an H and you're going to go hard of hearing. So you just bounce it twice. Hard of hearing. Hard of hearing. Then our third one is going to be deaf. So deaf is going to be like it's a pointer finger, a D, either way. I think it's more just kind of a pointer finger. You're going to start at the corner of your mouth and you're going to bring it to your ear. Deaf, deaf, deaf. So if you were going to ask someone if they were hearing or deaf or hard of hearing, you would go, "You deaf?" Excuse me, I knew I was going to have hiccups. So you would point and go, "Deaf? You deaf?" Or "You hearing?" So if you see someone asking you and they go like this, they're asking you if you are hearing or deaf, whichever one. Okay.
What
So
is
the
mute?
mute,
Yeah, like somebody who can't talk, right? Who has to sign because they can't speak.
I think it's finger spelled. I'm not sure. It's not a common because like it's not as common most of our kids because once you like they don't maybe voice because they are deaf. It's a very rare occurrence, I guess I would say. I'll actually look into that and see, and if I find out, I will let y'all know because that's actually an interesting one. I think it's just finger spelled mute. But yeah. Okay. Our next one is going to be repeat. And I think we did this one earlier, but we're going to do it again because I think it's an important one. And it's going to be the same sign for again. So repeat, 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 repeat. Then we have the sign for can. And this is not like a can of food or like canned goods, things like this. This is like, yes, you can. Typically, I don't make that difference, but I'm in Thanksgiving mode and I immediately thought of all the different types of vegetables that are canned. And I was like, oh, and never talked about the difference of those. So for can, you're going to have two S's and you're basically just going to do two yeses. Can, 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 can. You can do the one. And the reason I was very slow with that saying is because that is still technically yes. But if someone's asking like, you can, like, work, you can, and you go, that's still saying like, yeah, I can, or yes. They can kind of blend together like that. So the next one we have is can't. And so for can't, there are two ways you can do it. The first one, if you remember, I'm trying to remember when we did the sign for not, like I do not like, I do not want those. So you can do the same thing. So cannot or not can't, like typically they do cannot, which is interesting because we did not not kind of flips it, but this one is like can not. And you do shake your head with it just to kind of emphasize that no. The other one, which is much simpler, it's one sign, is you have two pointer fingers and you just go can't. You just flick the other one. Can't. This one I do see a lot more often than the cannot. I kind of almost like to think of them how we actually say them in English. Most of the time we say can't, oh, I can't do that, versus saying, oh, I cannot do that. So, like, we don't always say cannot as often as we do can't, kind of the same way in ASL. We do this one more than we do this one. Okay, let's do one more set, then we'll go back through. The next one we have is have and don't have. Okay, so have, which I knew I was going to have a problem with this. There we go. Have, so it's putting your kind of bent hand puppets above your armpit. So I'm not going in, I'm going right above. Have. And then don't have is going to be not have, not have, not have. You can do a have with one hand. Um, that sometimes will kind of happen again, more of that common, like kind of the flow of the conversation. If I'm talking about like, well, I don't have that, I don't have that. Sometimes like if it's just one like simple sentence, it'll kind of stay. But sometimes it'll also just be like, I can't have that, can't have, or well, can't have you really want to do can't have. I'm gonna spiral into ASL if I do that. I'm gonna stop right there. Not have. There's some like interesting structures where you start to really take it literal, and then you have to start sitting there thinking about the sentence you're saying, and it just really spirals real fast if you start to think on it. Trust me, I've done it many times.
Yeah, you get to the point where you're like, what is language?
I really do. Y'all should have seen me in college because I would sit there and I would sign a sentence and I'd be like, no, that doesn't apply. You can't say that because of this. And then it just kept, woo. And then I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. I need to just quit this and just look at it for a sentence. So I will do that. I've caught myself doing that in this class because I'll talk about it and I'll be like, wait a minute, how would you change
I
this?
mean,
And
it
I'm like,
is fun, to think about,
right?
but it's a rabbit hole.
It really is. Okay. So if my list will stop zooming out, there we go. So let's go back. So we had hearing, which was hearing. And my little helpful tip with this is that your lips are moving because, like, when you're hearing typically goes along with talking. So it's always like your mouth is moving. That's how I think about it, if that's like a helpful tip. So hearing, then we have
To,
heart.
to this point, then, could you like also show us how to ask somebody if they read lips?
Yes, I can actually. That's a good one. Yes, let's go through these first three and then I will add that there. So we had hearing, then hard of hearing, which was H, hard of hearing. And then we had deaf, deaf. So if you were going to say, can you read lips? Most of the time it's going to be basically going like, hold on. I signed it, didn't say a word of what I was doing. I just went ahead with that. I knew I was going to do that too. I caught myself with it. So I was basically asking about speech. Um, and that can kind of tie in. I've seen people be like, "Oh, do you read lips?" Like they'll point, kind of do the speech motion is like a V, two bent fingers, and then you do a circular motion in front of your mouth. Speech. So I see some people that'll be like, "You understand like the speech or you understand the mouth movements, that kind of thing." They'll do like speech and then move their mouth. And we're going to do this one later. I promise. This is on the bottom of the next part of the list. I just haven't gotten there yet, but understand. So, but yeah, that's how you would do it, is be like, you understand speech, you understand lip reading, that kind of thing. Interestingly enough, a lot of people assume it is that a lot that deaf people can understand lip reading often, and most of the time it's about like a 50-60%, basically. It kind of depends on what kind of language they've been exposed to and what they've seen. There are some people who have that basically started more hard of hearing and then later in life lost more of their hearing. And so they have at least some familiarity with speech and with sound movements that can't understand like that lip movement, but not everybody. And so I always think it's really interesting because a lot of people, I feel like it's almost a common assumption. Oh, well, if they don't understand me, I'm just gonna move my mouth really wide, and some people are gonna look at you and go, "You're being weird. I don't get what you're saying at all." It's interesting to me. So, but yeah, fun little fact there. Okay, so we were still doing we had repeat and again. So 50 to 60% of understanding it. And not everybody does it. It kind of varies, but more common is that person could understand about 50 or 60% of what you're saying by reading your lips. It's actually really interesting, like discussion to talk about, especially because when we were learning about it, is we actually practiced like having headphones on and having to like kind of watch the mouth movements to kind of catch it. And there are certain letter sounds that are really simple and easy to catch, but there are some that you're like, what? And so it's about like 60%, 50 to 60% kind of wave of being able to catch and understand what someone is saying. So yeah. Okay, we had a repeat and again, and then we also had our can, then can't, can't, and then our cannot. We had our have, then we had our don't have. Okay. I stopped. I felt like the way my tone ended was that there was another one after that, and I was like, nope, that's actually it. And I'll catch myself doing that. Okay. Our next one is going to be no, as in like I know. And so no is going to be that bent kind of, I call it like a bent hand puppet. It's not really, but a bent, like 90 degree. And you put it at the side of your head. No. I know. No. If you were to say don't know, two ways you can do it. One is with the not know, I don't know. The other one is don't know, don't know, don't know, don't know. Okay, so the next one we're going to do is understand or like comprehend, that kind of thing. And so for that, it's understand. It's like a flicking your pointer finger up. Understand, understand. So you do want to make sure it's on the, sorry, I realized I didn't say this. You do want to make sure it's on the side of your head, like kind of near where we do the no. It's going to be here. Understand. And this one is also if your eyebrows really do make a difference on how you are presenting the sentence or that word, because you could be going like, do you understand? With your eyebrows up, that is saying, do you understand? Understand? But if your eyebrows are down, that's saying, I understand. I mean, down. Goodness, I have not been able to talk, guys. Sorry. But your eyebrows kind of that neutral as I understand. Now, what's interesting is I don't understand. The more common, like the more, I guess, proper way you would say is not understand. But a lot of people will use it where they'll just go, they'll shake their head and do that whole like face of like, I don't know what you're talking about, and be like, I don't understand. But the more like official, proper way would be the I don't understand. I don't understand. Okay. Our next one is going to be stop. So stop is going to be palm up with non-dominant hand. Your dominant hand is going to be kind of in that open B, and you're going to put it right on top. Stop. Stop. Now, for those of you who have children and want to practice this with telling your kids to stop it, I do warn you, be careful with this one. You can hurt yourself, okay? Because I like to say how like your tone in like English and talking can kind of like come into ASL. It's how much pressure you put on your hands. And if you are being like, stop it, I'm so blah, 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 you can do damage. I have hit myself in a good spot, like right here, where I'm like, stop. And then I stop mid-sentence and I'm like, "Ah," like I grab my hand because it hurt. And my kids are immediately like, they stop and they're like, what's wrong? And I was like, I hurt myself. I'm okay, I promise. But so I like to give this one a little warning because the more air quote attitude and tone you put in that, the more you could hurt yourself. So okay. The next one we have is congratulations. So for congratulations, it's the same thing as celebrate, which we did, I think, when we did our sports. So congratulations is that X, like we're holding the pom poms and we're circling. Congrats. Hmm. I am gonna add this one here too because this one also does go in here, is clapping, basically. So when you're cheering or clapping in ASL, they don't clap their hands. I mean, they some do, but the ASL way of it is you have two fives and you shake them like this. And you just shake them real fast, like yeah. So sometimes when we're doing like congratulations, we'll be like, ah, yeah, that kind of thing. This one is always kind of a fun one to me. And I've caught myself on a few occasions accidentally signing that instead of clapping. I did it at my sister's graduation this past May. We drove it was a huge crowd of people, and like they were announcing, and my first instinct was when they were like doing the cheers was this. And I lifted them up high, and my brother's like, "What are you doing?" Puts my arm down. I was like, I forgot where I was for a minute there. So I always like, I like this one. I don't know. I just think it's fun. Okay. Our next one we're going to do is the sign for happy birthday. So, the first sign we're going to do is the sign for happy, and the sign for happy is happy. So you're patting your chest, shoulder, collar area. I had to think of where that was. Happy. So you do happy, and then for birthday, you're going to have your middle finger. You're going to put it on your chin like favorite, but then you're going to bring it to your chest. Birthday. Birthday. So happy birthday. Okay, let's do one more and then we will go back to those. So the next one is surprise. Now, interestingly enough, surprise is very similar as the sign for awake. Your facial expressions kind of make the change on what you're saying. So for surprise, you're going to have like two like 20s. Think about flat 20s. You're going to put them next to your eyes and you're going to go surprise. Surprise. Yeah. And you kind of add that little like jump, like you're like, think about how when you're trying to surprise someone, you go surprise with the fast like hand movement. Same kind of here, surprise. Because if you just do this is wake up. So they're very similar. Wake, I woke up last night, whatever, versus surprise, surprise, that kind of thing. Okay.
Excuse me,
Let's,
real quick. I'm
yes.
sorry. Hey, I just wanted to jump in and say that I'm not able to stay, but I wanted to thank y'all for everything. I've learned a lot, and I'm always telling somebody that I'm ready to eat. Um,
That's so awesome.
I love to hear that. Oh.
I'm like food, but I really want to eat something. And so, yeah, my friends are like, oh my gosh. So yes, thank you for that. I've been practicing. So thanks for following up with the videos and stuff. So I've been doing stuff, in my off time. So I appreciate it. And I
That's
hope y'all have a
awesome.
great
Well, come
Thanksgiving.
back and visit us again.
Okay,
Yes.
I
Okay,
will. Bye,
great.
y'all.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, so sweet. Okay. Where were we? That's right. We were going back and reviewing. So we had, I think we stopped at
Wait,
have.
I'm sorry, Jillian, you said if you just, that's wake up.
Yeah, like if it's
Okay,
just
okay.
kind of more resting, there's not really much of like
Then you
emotion.
really ruined the surprise. Okay, that's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah. It's an interesting like concept because when I was learning about it, I was like, wait, but this like it's the exact same sign, it's just a slight difference. But then when you see it actually being like applied in a sentence, it's like, oh, that makes so much sense. It really does. Context really plays in and really can change how the sentence goes. So, okay. So we had, I think we stopped at know and don't know, I think. So we're going to go with our stop. If I'm wrong, someone can let me know and I'll go back through those. But we had stop. So stop. Stop. Then we had congratulations, congrats, celebrate. And then we also had applause, like clapping. hmm Then we had our happy birthday. So happy birthday. Then we had our surprise. So surprise, surprise, or our wake up. Just a little, not much movement. Okay. Then we're now on to these. So our next one we have is I'm sorry, which I feel like we've done, but we're going to do it again. So sorry is going to be it's going to be an A. You're going to put it in the center and you're going to do a circular motion. Sorry. Sorry. And I will say you do want to make sure your facial expressions do kind of show that you're sorry. Because if you do not show it and you're like, sorry, very flat, they may be like, are you being sarcastic with me? Are you like teasing me right now? They're gonna think that. So I would very much, if you really are sorry, being like, I'm sorry, like just my recommendation. Then we have please. So please is gonna be a open hand, but the same motion we did for sorry. Please. Please. Okay. Our next one we have is thank you. So we did that one. Thank you. Thank you. I am going to add this here just because of what's happening Thursday, Thanksgiving, because I was like, oh, I need to add this one here. And Thanksgiving is very similar to thank you. So that's why I was like, oh, perfect timing. So the sign for Thanksgiving, there are two different ways you can do it. The first one is it's two hands and you go thank you or Thanksgiving. Sorry. It's very much similar to thank you because it's in the concept of that Thanksgiving is for giving thanks. So it's many thanks. Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving. The other one that I've seen is it's really the sign for turkey. So I've seen a lot of like mainly I've seen a lot of my kids will go turkey day instead of like Thanksgiving day. They'll just say turkey day. And so for turkey, it's a G. You're gonna turn it kind of into a Q and you put it under your chin. So yeah, so this is another one that could be for Thanksgiving day for Thanksgiving. Again, this is turkey though. I will emphasize this is turkey. So if someone goes up to you and go, you mean Thanksgiving? I don't want y'all being like, well, Jillian said this is how you do Thanksgiving. No, 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 no. That's how you do turkey that can also be used for Thanksgiving. I ain't getting nobody angry yelling at me back on this because I do Thanksgiving. I don't do this one. Thanksgiving. Okay. The next one we have is I need help. So for this one, we have not talked about directions in the sense of like,
Yeah, I don't think we talked about uh, I'm trying to think which signs we do where it comes up before help,
We
but
did
we haven't done
directions like
directional.
time, like, in the past or in the future, but we didn't do directions
That's right. That's
to
right.
you or to me.
that's right. Okay, good. So then we'll kind of come in. I'm going to explain this here then, because the sign for help is a directional sign. So what that means by that is that instead of saying like you help me and going like you help me, it actually will have one fluid motion. Okay. So with that being said, for example, if I was going to say I'm going to help you, I would start with the help sign, which this is help. I'm going to start with it at my chest, towards me, closer to me. If I was going to say I'm going to help you, is I would have it start here and I would bring it towards you. I'm helping you. This can also be saying like, do you need help? Do you want me to help? This is where your eyebrows would go up for that, like, help me help you, help. But if you were to say like you needed help, you're going to start away from you and bring it towards you. Help me. Help me. Now, what's really important with this one, excuse me, is whoever you are talking to about the help, you need to make sure that's the direction. So I always like to say, pretend you're in a circle with people right now. Okay. And if you're talking to the person to your right, like right here, you're not going to look at the person in front of you and go, help me. Because even though you're telling them you want their help, because if you do that, they're going to help you, not this person. So you'd be like, you help me, help me. Or the same thing can be said, like if you want, I think a lot of times we do actually apply this when we're talking about yours, mine, and theirs. That's where it comes in a lot. We haven't done those, and we'll touch on those a bit too. I was trying to say, there's like, where else do we talk about this? And it's that. So, but if you were going to say like, help us, like you're talking about multiple people, you would go help and then make that motion of whoever. So like I typically would have it like next to me. So I'd be like, you help us, or help us. It's like a two and bounce back and forth of whoever. We'll get into that more, I promise. We're gonna move on to the theirs and yours and mine, and we'll talk more there and it'll make more sense. So, but this is the sign for help. You can just leave it as help. That one time you can look at someone, go help, and that can also just suffice as saying like needing help. Um, or you could go the full sentence, which is need. So the sign for need is going to be a bent X. Bent X. What in the world? It's an X. I don't know why I said a bent X. I think I was trying to say a bent hook again, and that's not like my brain just conflicted with that. But so an X, and you go need. You tap it. Need. Need. So you could do need help, or help need, help need. You can do that. But like I said, because it's a directional sign, you just going like help me, bringing it towards them will be more, I guess, natural ASL way, the natural way of it. Help. Okay. Let's talk about yours, mine, and ours, and theirs, and all the other types of ways you can claim things, possessions. So for the first one, for if you, well, we didn't even do me. Okay, we're gonna dabble in this a little bit. There's not too many. It's not as I know. I keep adding and adding and adding, and I'm like, they're probably y'all are like, oh my gosh, girl, what are you doing? It's not as complicated as it sounds. I promise. Like it's not like it's all new signs. It's just adding a little direction to it. So for me and I, it's always going to be like you point to yourself, like me, I. There's really not the difference between me and I per se in ASL, because you are talking about yourself. You know, that's not always the biggest importance of, oh, well, we have to change it because I'm saying me first or me,
It's
whichever of
the
that.
so, mm, if we were doing C, that's where we would be really paying much more attention to pronouns. Here, ASL is not so focused on all those
Pronoun.
all those parts of the grammar. I mean, there are other parts of grammar that we don't see in ASL that you would see in other kinds of sign language, correct?
Yes. Like I like kind of like those linking verbs like is, are, were, am. Those are already, they're not, the big thing is they're not just gone. They're not just like, oh, we got rid of them. They're embedded in the sentence per se already. They're kind of already put into it when you're talking about like working, like I'm working now, like
Well,
was
like
she
because of what Drew said too, if you're behind they're directional signs. So
right.
that tells people your verb tense, I guess. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes. No, exactly. That's like the case of it. And that's where that's a very good like connection with the two is like the verb tenses. Well, it comes into pronoun tenses, guess. Pronouns as well. It applies the same way. So when you're talking about me, me, myself, not myself, me and I, it's just pointing to yourself. Same thing for you, it just points to you. Um, Now, if I were going to talk about something that is mine, not myself. I need to stop saying that. I keep wanting to say me, myself, and I, and I'm like, nope, that actually does not work in this situation. But so if I was going to say that something is mine or my, you would have an open hand and pat this mine, my dog, oops, my family, things like that, mine. Same thing can be said for yours, yours, yours. I'm pointing out here. I'm pretending there's a person here because I don't want to point in y'all's face because you can't see me when I do that. So my little imaginary person's right here, but yours. Okay. If you were going to talk about we, okay, important thing with this is you kind of have that two finger for two people. We're just going to start with our two people right now. If I was going to say we, like the person standing next to me, let's say my sister was here and I'm saying we're going shopping. I'd be like we, I do that two motion kind of thing. We shop or whichever. So that would be how I would say it. But again, visualize if we're in a group and I'm talking about this person right here. We're going somewhere. I would do we. with again that I know mine looks like a K. That's just kind of how my natural hand kind of moves into, but it is like the two, like you're pointing to that person and myself. We. I will happily give you the shopping sign, especially because of Black Friday on Friday. So I mean, like I got you. But so that's how you would do that we. If you were talking about three people, you just add that thumb and again make that motion like we three. We three. It is important to make sure you have at least one of them include pointing to yourself to include you. Because if you were to do like this, you two, that kind of motion, that's talking about them, not you. Okay. I know it's really hard to do when it's like we're not in an actual like standing group where you can like actually see who I'm pointing at. But that's how you do the directions of saying like you, she, he. She and he are just kind of they really you just point. You can say girl and point. Oh, that's a good question. If you saw the question, she said, "How would you point all of us out on the screen?" I really would just do the sign for all, like all of y'all, which is where I just did an A and then you go to the L and you swipe. That is all. Um, so if I was gonna say all, like I make the motion of pointing whenever I'm talking like to my kids and they're sitting here and they're like, well, who's gotta work? And I go, all y'all, all. Like I would move that all wherever it needs to be. So because you guys are in front of me, I would do all. Okay. In with that too is what I was gonna say with the he, we typically have the pronouns he, she, all of those. Um, in ASL, you don't really have them. You just kind of point and kind of do the describing. So like the woman right there, woman, she's right there. I did a little crook motion right here, and I'll explain that. This is more like saying she's further away, more of a distance, like that way, that way. Mhm. But it's not insulting to point at people in ASL. I feel like at least I remember being raised, don't point at people, that's rude. Well, in ASL, that's not rude. That's actually just how you point about who you're talking about. So, um, I was gonna say ours, like that's ours, like in the way we as a whole group. Sorry, let me do that before. So for we, you like, and you're talking about everyone, you're going to start at your shoulder and go we. So you do like a circular motion and go to your other shoulder. We, we. And this is talking about everybody involved. We, we, we. Now, if you're talking about it's theirs, it's ours, it's whichever, you basically, instead of having that pointer finger, you have the open hand. So it's yours. And that's for both of them. Like I'm shaking it back and forth between there are two people here, and I'm going, it's yours. Shawls. Um, if it's ours, I would say like mine, hers. Sorry, I had to think for a minute. Because I'm having us stand next to each other. For like saying it's ours, I go mine, hers. Mine, hers. If I was going to say it's ours, that's when you start again on this shoulder and you go ours, ours, all of ours, everyone's ours. Okay, does that make sense? Like I said, it's not many signs per se. It's more of the direction kind of implies. And I think personally, I'm a visual learner, so it works really well. I do think it really does it gets to be helpful because you know who you're talking about. And because you're literally moving towards them, it's including them or saying it's theirs, it's mine, whichever forth. So, are there any questions about the directions before we move on to other signs? I do want to check because I know this one can be a complicated one. Okay, perfect. So then we will move on. We're gonna do some places, okay? Because that one always I do feel bad. I think it gets pushed to the side a lot. So we're gonna do just a few places. So the first one we're going to do is the sign for place itself. And so this one's kind of an awkward sign. Bear with me. And the reason I say awkward is it's hard to see through a computer. So you're going to start with two Ks. You're going to turn them sideways. You're going to start away from you and have like your middle fingers touch. And you're going to make a square motion with them. So it's pull them out, come closer, close together. Square. This is place. 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 Typically, it is a little bit lower, place, but you guys can't see, so I'm lifting it a little bit higher. Place. Okay. The next one we have is the sign for school. So school is going to be school. It's just like kind of like clapping, but it's flat. School. And you pat twice. School. 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 Then we have library. Library is going to be like how we did librarian, if you remember. So it's an L and you make a circular motion. Library. Library. Okay. Our next one is going to be church. Now, this one, I always love to talk about this one with the sign for chocolate because they are so similar. They're so easy to flip flop. Okay. It's like probably one of mine and Miss Katie's like favorite like flip flops because it's just so funny. So if you all remember when we did food, we had chocolate was the C here, and you make the circular motion. Church is going to be C on top again, but you tap it. Church. Church. So chocolate, church. I like to warn everyone, make sure you remember the difference because if you're saying, well, I want chocolate, and you're saying, well, I want church, that has very two different sentences. I don't know. I think that's one of my favorite, like easily flipped ones because there were times when I was learning it, I kept going like, I would literally sit here and I would move this and I would just be like fed up and I would finger spell chocolate. And they're like, chocolate. I'm like, I don't know why I can't get that one to stick. So I just always think that one's a fun one because it's so similar. The next one we have is store. So store is going to be kind of like those hand puppets again, but they're pointing down and you're going to bring it next to your head. Store, store. Visual is like holding a shopping bag is kind of my mindset is like, I think about holding a shopping bag. You're holding it very awkwardly. I will admit that, but you are holding a shopping bag.
Is that the
Store.
same as the verb store?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, no. Okay, hold on. Storing something. Actually, no. No. Sorry. I realized I said yes and went, hold on. I did not think that through. If you were going to put something up or place it, you make the motion of like moving it wherever. So like, oh, I'm going to put it in my drawer, like put it in here, put it in my drawer. We're not going to get in too depth on this because this is very complicated stuff, but like you make a motion for it. But
Okay.
this is just like a store itself. Like you're actually going to the store.
Okay. Thank you.
Now with this, the way you differentiate between the different types of stores is for grocery store, you go food store. So food store. The other one we're gonna do is a bookstore because I'm biased and I love books and I love going to a bookstore. So the sign for book is you have your hands together and they open up like a book. So book store. And then the other one we have is like clothing store. Okay. So for clothing, it's clothes. If you guys remember when we did our Halloween signs a few weeks back. So clothing store. Clothing store. So for shopping, it's shopping. It's like making the motion of like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go shopping on Friday. That kind of motion. So there's your little sign for shopping. Okay. Let's try to finish out our places and then we'll try to go back. I know we're running out of time. The next one I have is the sign for room. Now the sign for room, there are two ways you can do it. One is more ASL, one is more English. So the first one we're going to do for room is you start with two kind of like open B's. You're going to have one in front of the other like this. Okay, I'm gonna move back so you see. I've not moved them, they're just here. Room, room. Room. And the reason is because if you look down at your hands, it looks like you're making a square room. You're supposed to. So they're like a front of each other and then they level out. Room. Room. This also is the sign for box, which is why some people, to help differentiate that you're talking about a room, is they'll do with the R's. Room. 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 But again, that is more of that English, whereas this is ASL. Room. Now, with that, That's how you would say a lot of different spaces. So like office is still technically office, but some people will do the O's and go office. Office. Excuse me. Office. For classroom, it's so if you guys remember we did our little group for teen, the C for classroom. Classroom. It's very like smooth motion. Classroom. Classroom. Okay, I know I'm going way too. I'm like I'm watching y'all are like, hold on, what is she doing? So it's the sign for class, and then I immediately move my hands into room. So class room. Yeah, it's I do that one all the time, so that's why I'm able to just go like that, where it's like one motion. It's very smooth when you use it almost every day. So okay. The next one we have is left and right. Very simple. Laboratory. Okay, here's the question. Are you talking about an actual lab? Okay. It's LAB, lab. Lab. So you could do a space, make it the room space, and then go lab to identify that that's a lab. So the next one we have is left and right. Very simple. Your left hand is going to be in the shape of an L, and you're going to go left and point to the left. Right is an R, and you point to the right. So left, right. Okay. And then we have north, south, east, and west. Given how we did left and right, I'm sure you guys can gather how we do north, south, east, and west. North is an N going up. South is an S going down. E is nope. Because I'm left-handed, I flip mine. It's going to look weird. I have to flip hands for this. I do this every time because I'm going to confuse all y'all. So north, south, E for east going this way, and then west, W going the other way. So if you are left-handed, your E is going to go in front of you while your W is going to go away from you. Okay. Right-handed, it's going to be an E going away from you while your W comes in front of you. As a lefty, that's a common problem that I have as my east and west because they always look so different for me. So that's why I
Well,
had to
it's
stop.
even worse for us because you're a lefty and the image on Zoom is mirrored. So now we got to figure that out too.
Gosh, I didn't even think about that. I'm so glad I said, at least I'm glad I said lefties, your E is going to get in front of you while your W's going to go away. I guess I need to use that from now on. I didn't even think about how the camera flips. Oh my goodness. So yeah, just remember whichever like dominant hand you use, your if you're right, your E goes away, W comes towards you, your lefty E comes towards you, W goes away. Don't worry about the other hand, basically, is what I want to say. If you're like, I'm a righty, don't even ignore what I say about being a lefty. So, but I do have to acknowledge that there are some people who are lefties like me. So, okay. We have one more, like kind of two more signs. For some city signs. Okay. So actually the sign for city, let me do the sign for city first. I don't think we've done this one actually. It's the same sign for town. Okay. So you're going to kind of start like bent motions like this, and you're going to go city, city, city. So it's like you're tapping. I think about like Monopoly little buildings. I don't know why that's what I think about, but like you're just tapping. There's many of them. Because the visual is like you're talking about different houses everywhere. So city, city. For Birmingham, Birmingham does have its own name sign, and it's going to be a B, and you bring it close to the corner of your mouth. Birmingham, Birmingham, Birmingham. There's only a few that have signs. I know Birmingham has one. Huntsville, which I think we did when we did astronaut, it's the H for the rocket. Montgomery is going to be an M, and you go out and bring it towards your head. Montgomery. Montgomery. And the reason for this is because this is government. 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 So because it's a capital, it has the motion of the government with it. Montgomery.
Also, what's the base sign for Birmingham then? What's that one based off of then?
Then actually, I do not know on this one. So A lot of some of them have like they make a lot of sense like that. Where like, oh, there's a logic there, like the Huntsville with the H, Montgomery with the M. But then there are some like Birmingham or Mobile. Mobile's an M, and you shake it back and forth by the side of your head. Mobile. Some of them don't always have. They may have it, and they're not talked about as often compared to like Montgomery and Huntsville. But I don't actually think I've heard of our reasoning for why this is Birmingham. Now that I think about it. That's a good question. I'll have to see if anyone knows.
Wait, is there a Tuscaloosa?
Tuscaloosa is trying to think because I'm trying to not blend it with college because like UA,
Yeah.
Tuscaloosa, because that's Talladega, that's Texas. I think a lot of times they just say UA, like UA, and then do
That's
like
legit.
yeah. I had to think for a minute because I know Auburn's is AU. Like you went to Auburn, even if you're not talking about the university itself, like talking about Auburn, it's Auburn. um, I think those towns have been completely taken over by their football teams. So, in the sense of when you're signing about them. So I was sitting there and I was like, no, because Talladega is a T and you make like a 7 motion kind of down. That's Talladega. Um, I'm trying to think if there's any others. They all kind of go out more eastern. We have a few a lot of the times we have ones that we use because we have like a big group of kids that live there. So like Mobile, like Oxford and Anniston have them, and it's because we have a lot more kids in that area. So there's already like a
Wait,
sign
what
for
was Anniston?
Anniston, so it's an A, and you start like on the top of your wrist, and then you bring it to your shoulder.
They
Anniston.
got a like really cool one.
Yeah, and Oxford's the same thing. Yeah. So there's some we have that very. I mean, Pell Cities is PC, PC. Um, yes, LA and NYC have their own. LA is LA, LA. um, New York City. So New York, the state has a sign, and it's sorry, New York with a Y, and it's swiping across. The reason for this is because this is similar in motion to a subway. So that's why the motion of the sub like that Y going back and forth. So if you were going to do NYC, it's NYC. If you think about it, though, a lot of the cities that we kind of shorthand, like LA and NYC, you do the same in ASL. They have their own like little shorthand. But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any others. Did I show you guys the sign for Alabama? Okay. So I know we're veering off completely of this list, but so the sign for Alabama, it's nothing really special, okay? Unfortunately, we don't have any cool ones like New York where you got like a whole thing there. But Alabama is gonna be ALA. Alabama. 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 So it's like you start with the A and then you bounce it.
I really feel we can do better.
Look, okay, there are some that have really cool ones. Like, let me show y'all's Florida. I'm just gonna because it's hard to describe, but Florida, and you're still doing FLA, but you're making it in the motion of its shape, Florida, which I think is really cool. And it's a little insulting that this is just Alabama. Especially because Louisiana is LA. So very similar. And you're like, okay, well, what are you talking about? Alabama or LA? I like to make it one motion, basically. Alabama bounces, whereas LA is LA, and that's it. Excuse me for Louisiana. But yeah, there's a few states that have their own, not many. Most of them are their like initials, like Kentucky's KY, Georgia's GA. Many of the states just have their initials. There's very few. I know like New York has one. Texas is an X, and you make that big like sevens like motion that I said like you do for Talladega. It's the same kind of thing. Texas. California is going to be the I love you sign with the pointer finger on your cheek and you bend it like this. And that's because this is the sign for gold. So like going out west for gold. That's where that one is. So California, Washington, it's a W and you pull it from your shoulder. That's to represent President Washington with his uniform kind of deal. So Washington. For Washington, D.C., I've seen people do Washington, D.C., but I've also seen people just do straight up D.C., and that's it. What other states are really well known? Colorado's cracks me up because I don't do it this way, but people will do Colorado. Colorado. Um, that's one of those moments where I go, but wait a minute, but we're actually not talking about colors. We're talking about a state. And I get a little like, but I've seen a lot of people use, they'll go Colorado. Colorado. Oh, I cannot even do it right. Colorado. I think that might be it for all the states that have their own little signs. Like I said, it's not many. So, but yeah, okay. We have like 7 minutes left. I'm gonna actually leave it up for you guys. I know we didn't touch our weather signs, even though I said we'd add it, but I feel like we added so many others. I'm gonna leave it open for you guys for like the last few minutes. If there's any signs you guys are curious of or anything you guys are like have questions about, I'm gonna leave that be because I figure that's enough time.
Adverbs, like ly adverbs.
Okay. That is a very complicated way, only because adverbs, I feel like already in English can be a little bit complicated. And that's actually a really big struggle for kids is that concept of like adverbs, and for deaf kids. Let's see. You're gonna have to give me a prime example of an adverb. Like, give me a prime one you want.
Well, one I think about a lot is that when I'm talking to if I want to talk to somebody who's deaf and like communicate, hey, I'm learning ASL, but I mostly fingerspell, that's one like that's one that I think would be really helpful.
So, okay, that was a perfect one. Thank you. I needed a prime example because I was like, if you leave it open, I'm like, that is a broad range right here. So, if you were going to be talking about like you mostly fingerspell, basically with adverbs, you just do the sign for that word, like most. So most is going to be most. It's like, okay, let me lift it a little higher. You have like slightly open hands that turn into fists as you go up. Most, most, most. So if I was saying like I'm learning ASL, most fingerspell, I would do that, mostly fingerspell. There's not really a difference between the most and mostly per se in that sentence. Most fingerspell. I think that kind of applies to a lot of adverbs. Like I said, a lot of deaf kids struggle with adverbs because I think, and I'm not an English teacher, so like, do not come at me if I'm not properly correct on this in the sense of like, I know it, but like, because I don't teach it, it's like, it's, not as familiar. But basically, like, some adverbs, they can be the same pretty much for the verb. Like most, mostly, it's very similar. But then there are some that actually do change the meaning, and that's when you would almost change the sign. Very complicated, very, very complicated stuff. But yes, if I was going to be like, I mostly fingerspell, I'd be like, most fingerspell. Raining. Okay, so let's just touch a few quick little weather signs. So the sign for rain is going to be, you're going to have like these open fives, and you go rain, 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 rain. So it's like you're bouncing and you're making like the raindrop motions. Like they're making the raindrops. Rain, rain. If you were gonna be saying like it's downpour, like it is just horrible weather, it's like it is just coming down and like all that. That is like the motion for like raining, like it is downpour, rain. Um, for the sign for sun is you're gonna start with like a kind of a hand puppet here. You're gonna turn it towards you and open your hand, sun. And the motion for this is that this, like kind of like flat O kind of deal, is the sun. And then the sun rays are coming on you. Sun, sun, sun. Then we have lightning. I think lightning's a fun one. That's why I had to add it. Lightning is going to have your non-dominant palm across. Your dominant pointer finger is going to kind of come up here, and you make the lightning motion, the zigzag. Lightning. 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 What's interesting for the sign for thunder is the sign for thunder is you point to your ear, and then you're going to have kind of open hands that you're going to bounce back and forth and they come into fists. So it's thunder, thunder. And the reasoning for this motion is because for thunder, we can hear thunder, but for deaf people, obviously they can't. They feel the vibrations. So thunder, they'll feel that like the floor, like the wood, like that's the rumble. That's the word I kept trying to think of. So the rumble, thunder, thunder. So yeah, that's where thunder is. Let's see. Tornado. Tornado has two different ways you can do it. The one I see more often now is you're gonna have your non-dominant palm up. Dominant kind of comes in almost like when we do like our 1,000 kind of motion. You're gonna start here and you go tornado. So you're bouncing it back and forth like it spirals. Tornado, 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 tornado. The
Or like
other,
Dorothy being carried away.
exactly. And then the other way I was gonna say tornado is tornadoes like two pointer fingers. Tornado, tornado, tornado. Interestingly enough, I learned this one, but now I do this one. Very much like kind of regions can very much change which signs you use.
If I
and
was
stuff.
doing this, I would confuse it with spaghetti.
Exactly. And so after a while, I was like, oh, this actually makes a lot of sense too. Because my mom was like, well, it's the spiral. And they do this in Tennessee too. I've seen them use this one more in Tennessee versus tornado. But yeah, there's tornado. Um, let's see. Snow. I know we get it so little, but I just love the sign for
Oh, and
snow.
like ice, like on the ground, not like ice you're gonna.
Yes. That is actually still just like frozen. Like it's frozen. The roads are frozen, icy, that kind of thing is still the same. But for snow, you're gonna start kind of similar like of our rain, but then you wiggle your fingers and you go back and forth because the snow is so delicate and soft and sweet. I love this sign. However little I get to use it. I love talking to my kids about snow and they say that's not real. And I say, yes, it is. Oh my gosh, you guys have been missing out on snow. I mean, we don't get it often. I got my first experience in Chicago and I literally acted like a kid on Christmas Day. There's videos of me just jumping around like a bunny rabbit everywhere because I was like, I love this. So I'm very biased towards my snow. Um, are there any other signs you guys can think of? And they don't have to be weather related. They can be any signs you're curious of, anything like that.
Just a quick question for Miss Katie, actually. Like, if we didn't get to all the weather, I know we went over those in like other class sessions from other seasons, right? If
Yeah.
she has like a video from one of those still saved, do you think she could link that in the follow-up email so people could still see all the weather signs from like
Yeah, I can
previous
for sure do
sessions?
that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. I was gonna add a fun little quick story for you guys. I know it's after 6:30, but I just thought I would add this. I thought it was really cool. I have one student in my 6th grade class who's hard of hearing, a lot more on the hearing side than hard of hearing. Like her, you could talk to her and you wouldn't realize that she does have a hearing loss. But what's really cool is that she was asking me about playing Christmas music, and I was like, okay, fine. I'm one of those people that usually waits till after Thanksgiving, but I was like, fine. It's like 2 days before we get off for Thanksgiving break. Go ahead. We're playing Christmas music, and she's in a class with peers who are profoundly deaf. And so I always like to, whenever we play any kind of music, is I still sign all the lyrics so they can still participate and get involved. Well, I had one student who was like, because I'm playing it through my phone, and what she did is she put her hands here to feel the vibrations and was like, and so it became a normal thing of like we would sit there, I'd be playing the music loud, signing it, and she would just put her hand here and then we'd pay attention in class. And she'd look up at me when it stops and she goes, new song? And I say, yeah, it's changed. I just thought it was the coolest little thing. And still showing that like, inclusion and everything. Cause I know like that's always a big thing for me. But so I just thought it was really sweet and really cool just to watch. I mean, she literally would just calmly put her hand and still participate and still be working on her work and everything. She just have a hand here so she could feel the beats of it.
That's so sweet. I love that.
I was like, I have to share this. I love this. So I thought I would end on a little fun note. Um, it is 6:30, so I will let you guys go. But I was gonna say you guys are more than welcome to join any of our other classes in the
Yeah,
future.
come join us again.
Yes. Even if it's just like for one class, like typically, I think I'm starting on this and I know Miss Katie probably is going to come in and add on it, but we like kind of send out the same kind of topics of the classes. So you're like, okay, I actually really would like to go over like the food signs again. you can always like email her, hey, I would like to join for that class, and we can always make it work for you guys. So, but I
We'd love to
really,
see you again.
yes,
So
but I
stay in touch.
Peace. So I really enjoyed having you guys in our ASL class. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well, and I hope you guys have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Yes. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving to all of you guys. And happy Black Friday as well. Okay, good luck if you go shopping. I'm going shopping, so that's why I
I
have to say.
am cross stitching. You're crazy.
Well, bye, you guys. See you guys next time.
Bye, everybody.